Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Secrets of Success from the Sober Business Network. And sharing her secrets of success today, we have our guest, Esther Nagle. Hi, Esther. Welcome. It's really good to have you here, Esther. So let's kick off by asking you a little bit about you and your business. Do you want to just
So
share?
I'm a recovery coach, focusing more on sobriety as a recovery than harm reduction. Sobriety is my own personal choice, and so I feel better able to support people in sobriety than anything else, really. And I help midlife misfits like me who want to kind of enjoy life but find some peace and not have to rely on alcohol for their fun and for their peace any longer. Yeah,
Fantastic.
you get
I
to
like
that age
that.
where the hangovers last three
What's
weeks and it's
Yeah,
time to stop.
yeah, I'm sure
Mm.
there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
After we're just recording this just after Christmas, so yeah, I'm sure lots of people are feeling it. Tell me what a midlife misfit is then, Esther. Am I one? I think I
So
might be.
I, well, I, so I think I mean, I was diagnosed with ADHD a few years ago, and I very quickly
Yeah,
realized that pretty much everyone that I actually have enjoyed, whose company I enjoy, and, you know, the people who kind of I'm drawn to, who are drawn to me, they're pretty much all either figuring out they've got ADHD or autism. There's some, or I've figured it out, even if they haven't yet. You know, I've diagnosed them,
yeah,
even if they haven't yet. So I think I'm very, very drawn to the neurodivergent people in the world, and there's a
yeah,
really high correlation between ADHD and substance misuse and addiction. So I think that there's an
yeah,
awful lot of people out there who maybe don't know that they've got ADHD, maybe don't recognize that they've got a problem with the way that they're drinking, because you create a life that makes it look completely normal. I know I did. And they're self-medicating, which is what I did for 20 years. You know, alcohol kept me kind of, it masked a lot of my symptoms. And
yeah.
I figured out that I had ADHD a few years after I got sober, when suddenly it just started to, like, everything seemed to go crazy in my head because I wasn't medicating with alcohol and marijuana and cigarettes as well.
Mm.
So I think that I mean, there's already a known correlation between ADHD and addiction, but I think that it's actually much higher than is currently even recognized. I really do. Um, I nearly went down a very ADHD rabbit hole a little while ago when I asked a question on social media about this, and the responses in various groups and on LinkedIn and Facebook, the response just blew up. I was like, I gotta do a
Yeah,
PhD. And I was like, for
yes,
about
yeah,
48
yeah,
hours, I
yeah,
was looking into how I could do a PhD, and then sort of I started like, no, okay, no, this is an ADHD moment. You're not doing a PhD, stop
yeah,
it. But
yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah.
really, really, really revealing to see how many people in the kind of sober recovery space were like, yeah, I think I've got ADHD, or yeah, I'm diagnosed. And then people in the ADHD space were saying, oh yes, I definitely have
Mm,
issues in this regard. So I think that there's a lot of
yeah.
crossover there.
100% agree with you. I've often wondered if I have ADHD actually, and I have never, gone down any kind of diagnosis route. I just think, oh well, if I have, I have. Who knows? But what you just said about going off down a rabbit hole and deciding to do a PhD is very relatable to me. So, yeah, interesting. My children describe themselves as neurospicy, which I quite like.
Yeah,
So
I
none of
like
them
that
have
one.
any
Yeah.
diagnoses, but I think because they're so aware of neurodiversity growing up these days, that they see that they're not completely neurotypical, but also perhaps not an extreme where they need additional support, and so
Yeah.
they've come up with this neurospicy term, which I quite like actually.
Yeah,
Because
and I
we're
think that
all on a
it's
spectrum somewhere, aren't we?
we are. We are. And I don't know if it's the lens that I look at the world through now. And like I said, the people that I attract and that I'm attracted to. So my social life, whereas it was full of heavy drinkers before, now it's filled with people who are very definitely ADHD. So to me, it looks like the world is more neurodivergent than neurotypical. It's like I'm
Yes.
waiting for the sort of, for a couple of generations' time, the phrase neurotypical is actually going to refer to people like me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it, how much undiagnosed neurodivergence there is in our parents'
Mm,
generations. When you look at I look at people in my family and think, how have they never had a diagnosis? Wow.
I know,
Yeah, I
yeah.
really do. Yeah. But
And
yeah, they
people
were
have
just seen as
struggled.
difficult, actually.
Yeah, people
Yeah,
have
it's
struggled
sad,
and
isn't it?
felt really bad about
Mm,
themselves because of it. I was
mm.
46 and I'd just grown up
Yeah.
thinking that I was just a bit rubbish at everything. It's,
Yeah. Yeah,
not
I know.
realizing that. Yeah,
It's sad, isn't it? It is really sad, and it's good that
yeah,
um, teachers and educational institutions are really starting to understand it, and workplaces actually. So yeah,
yeah.
I think that's a really good niche for you. Actually, it's
Mm,
lovely, lovely
yeah.
little niche to be working in. It's exciting.
I think there's
Um,
definitely a lot of people out there in need of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's your inspiration? I mean, obviously, you've already shared that you have an ADHD diagnosis and that you're sober. I'm guessing this is your inspiration. But how? Tell us about the journey to deciding to set up this business, because most entrepreneurs have tried something else out first. I just wondered what your journey is.
Oh yes, I've definitely tried a few. I mean, I have a very ADHD approach to everything. I mean, my CV is ridiculous. If I was to write it down, it's about 6 pages long now, I think. But yeah, I saw when I got sober, I kind of gave up on the world of work before I stopped drinking, and I ended up training to be a yoga teacher as a result of having a nervous breakdown. And
Okay. Yeah.
my genius idea was to go and train as a yoga teacher rather than go and get any kind of medical support. And
Okay.
during
Well,
that time, when I was
that's all
training to be
right.
a yoga teacher, I ended up getting sober. And the things that
Right.
I was learning on my yoga teacher training course, I was learning relaxation. I was developing new coping
Right.
strategies.
Mm,
I was doing a lot of like inner
mhm.
healing, a lot of basically
Yeah.
self-therapy for months.
Yes.
And ended up getting sober. And so then I was looking at, right, so yoga helped me to get here. So my initial thing was teaching yoga, and then I started talking
Yeah.
about my sobriety, and then I wanted to do yoga for recovery. Um,
Yeah.
but I didn't have the faintest idea what I was doing. I mean, it could be argued I still don't. And I had I had a lot of undiagnosed ADHD, I think is ultimately the problem, is that
Yeah.
I was all over the place with it and didn't manage. I had a lot of self-confidence issues. I felt like I was trying to go up against AA and, it was like, oh, I can't, who am I to say this? I was also very aware of the fact that I was only a yoga teacher and that dealing with recovery is actually dealing with vulnerable people and that maybe I was
Yeah.
overstepping the mark a little bit. So then I went and got a job, and then I ended up doing copywriting, and then probably a few other things along the way as well. But then in 2021, no, 2022, no idea what year.
Yeah.
My mum died, and she'd been ill for about a
Oh, I'm
year, and
sorry to
I
hear
was
that.
just I wasn't really doing anything very much because I couldn't cope with her being ill. And then when she died, I sort of, you stop and you reevaluate your
Mm,
life. And I was thinking, I don't want to be a copywriter. I love writing and I'm good at writing, but I'm not a salesperson and I don't want to be thinking about sales. And, I didn't want to be thinking in marketing terms about my writing.
mm,
So I started looking at, well, what is it that I actually want to do? And what I really wanted to do was help people who are trying to
yeah.
get sober. And so then I was looking at, so do I want to go back to uni and do a therapy, counseling kind of qualification? Well, that's going to take years. I can't do that. And then recovery coaching. And I'd heard about recovery coaching and started looking into it. And I just thought that actually sounds like exactly what I wanted to do when I
Yeah.
was trying to do the yoga, um,
Ah,
but
yeah.
with other things other than just yoga. So then
Yes.
I
Yeah.
was very lucky, and I was put in touch with a charity in Manchester called ADS, who were looking to recruit some volunteers to train as recovery coaches.
Oh,
So
wow.
I ended up being
Brilliant.
accepted for that, and I trained as a recovery coach with Recovery Coach Academy. And at the
Oh,
same time,
yeah.
then I
Yeah.
also did embodiment coaching with Embodiment Unlimited, because I wanted to be able to bring my yoga background into it. And I wanted to bring
Yes. Yeah.
more body related work into it as well. So I ended up, like, the first half of this year, as well as all the of last year, as well as all the like healing stuff that I was doing in terms of my grieving process over my mum. I was doing a lot
Yeah.
of retraining, and I did meditation training, and I did the embodiment coaching and recovery coaching. So then I'm a
Fantastic.
recovery coach, and it's great because
Fantastic.
it
Yeah.
really does allow me to do what I wanted to do with yoga, which is to give people um their own path to recovery. Because AA
Yeah.
was never going to work for me, and I didn't even know that there were other options. I got sober completely accidentally.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's just incredible to see that there are so many ways, and that every single person out there who struggled with doing all the different programs, maybe they've tried and failed all these things, and they can find their own unique path. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's, and it
Yeah.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
fit
Yeah.
what anybody else thinks recovery should look like, because it can be what suits them. My recovery doesn't look like anybody else's. My life doesn't.
Exactly.
No,
Yeah.
we're all so individual
Yeah.
that the one
Yeah.
size fits all thing
Well,
doesn't work for, particularly the
well,
more
I met
neurodivergent
someone.
people.
Well, yeah, exactly, because
Yeah.
we're not all the same, are we? But I met someone
Yeah.
recently who said, um, options in recovery save lives. And I thought that was really
Yes.
wise, actually,
Yes.
because, yeah, that's what it is. People
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
they need a whole range of options. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They
And
don't need to be told this is the only way. Yeah.
no, no. I mean, that was, I struggled to accept that I had a drinking. I knew I drank too much, but it looked normal from where I was. Although there was quite a lot of my
Yes, of
behavior that I
course.
used to hide from my friends, and I knew what I was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
But I thought that the only way to deal with that was to go to AA. And what I
Yeah.
understood about AA, none of it appealed to me in the slightest.
Yeah.
I've said
Yeah.
before, I would have rather run down the high street naked than to do that. And it just wasn't for me
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
And because I thought that was the only way I could get help, I stayed drinking. And I'm a single
Yeah.
mom. I had a small child. I had a teenager. I had children who were being put at risk more and more
Mm,
all the time, because I
yeah.
thought that there was only one path to get out of it, and I couldn't go down that path. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I
It's
love that.
really
Options
common
save
that.
lives. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's nice, isn't it? Um, so when you look back on your journey to setting up this business, then what are you most proud of that you've achieved?
So I think what I'm proud of the fact that I own all the things. What this whole journey has done for me is it's given me, and it's like brings in the ADHD diagnosis and my whole recovery journey. But all the things that I now talk quite vocally about on social media and on podcasts, they're all the things that I used to be ashamed of. And I think that
Mm.
the beauty of doing this sort of work is that you're taking the things that you used to try and hide away, and you're showing them to other people to say, look, it's fine. I think that
Yeah,
I get people telling me that, I mean, you get the whole, oh, you're so inspirational. And I love to hear that. But what I really love to hear is when somebody sends me a message that says, I just read that post that you wrote, and I'm not going to drink tonight because of it. And you're making me think about my
wow.
own relationship with drinking. So I think that the more I can be honest about, I mean, I probably overshare, I'm very ADHD. There's no filters. So I probably share more of me than maybe is wise sometimes. But I think that in that as well, there's a genuine connection that I can build then with somebody like me who is sitting there hiding away, then I pop up on Facebook saying, oh, you never guess what happened this one time, and oh, I did this really stupid thing, but I'm here and I'm still alive and now I'm okay. And I think that there is something so powerful in that. And
Yeah.
so every time I do that, and I love that I've got the confidence now that I can do that, I'm helping somebody else, but I'm also, it's like, it just lets go of a little bit more of it for me as well. So I'm still healing as
Yeah.
I'm sort of inspiring others
Yeah.
and helping others. I'm still on my own journey of healing.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Well, you should be proud as well. Yeah. Reducing that stigma, I think, is something to be really
Mm.
proud of, definitely.
Yes, yeah.
Um, and then similarly, when you think about your journey as a business owner, what mistakes have you made? So if you were a fledgling business owner or you were thinking about setting up in business on your own, what advice would you give to that person? Just say, don't do what I did. Don't do this.
Oh, that's hilarious because I'm probably still making most of the mistakes that I'm going to talk about. But I mean, for a very ADHD person, it's like, don't think you have to follow every idea you have, because that way is the way to madness and failure. Because I've done it
Yeah.
and oh my God, I've had this amazing idea and I've had this brilliant idea. I've bought more domain
Yeah.
names than anybody should have. I've set up a lot more websites than is sensible. I come up with a funky little name. And I went, that's a brilliant, and that's a name. That's not a business model. So,
Yeah.
my advice, if I could go back and give my younger self advice that she would actually listen to, would be write the
Yeah.
ideas down, put them away somewhere,
Yeah.
and see if you still want to do it in 3 weeks' time. And if you do, then go and talk to somebody else to get them to tell you if it's a good idea or not.
Yeah. Brilliant. Do you know what? That is such good advice, because I think we're all attracted to new shiny things, aren't we? And it's really tempting sometimes to just go off on a tangent and then waste days,
Yeah,
weeks.
because
Yeah, it
sometimes the
is.
tangents are more interesting than the boring stuff we've
Yeah.
got to do to get the thing we're actually
Yeah.
supposed to be doing out there. So the shiny is like, ooh, dopamine over
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's about discipline, isn't it, really? So there's a lot to be said for having, a default diary with set times for doing certain tasks, because at the end of the day, running a business is a lot of routine, isn't it? A lot of it is
Yeah. Yeah.
consistency,
And
getting
that's
the
that's
task
that's one of
done,
my
and it's
big challenges is that
yeah,
whole I
yeah,
need routine, but I'm
yeah,
not very good at sticking to one. So
yeah,
I'm still trying to
yeah,
figure
yeah.
that out. I mean, that's all about managing my ADHD more than anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Interesting. Yeah, fantastic. No, it's good advice.
Mm.
um, what what I was going to ask you about as well is what's really helped you the most on your entrepreneurial journey. So if you think about all of the courses that you might have been on or the people you might have met, what's been really, really helpful to you?
It's people who people like in the network that you've created, and
Yes.
people
Yeah.
coaches that I've worked with, people who will just be there as sounding boards. So when I'm
Yeah.
struggling, I can just say, look, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. I don't know what to do next. And just talking to somebody else about it. Sometimes you answer your own question. That's what
Yeah.
coaching is, isn't
Yes.
it? You
Yes.
answer your own question as you're saying it. Like, all right, no, I know what I need to do now. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye. And also like knowing, seeing that what, having people who are a few steps ahead of you, not so far
Yeah.
that their success seems unachievable. Like following them, watching them billionaires doesn't help, but seeing people who
No.
are just a few steps ahead and seeing what they are doing and seeing the results that they're getting. And like, people I follow on social media, like somebody that I follow I'm friends with on Facebook, posted today about how she got contacted to speak on a radio show about her niche.
Yeah.
And that got me then thinking about, your network?
Mm,
Because she was saying about how it's all about showing up, and I was thinking, well, that's what people do, isn't it? Is you can see the
yes.
results because you can see the work that people are doing. You can see what they're doing. You can see their results, and it's because they're not that far ahead of you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's like, well,
yeah,
I can do what they're doing. I can't model, what's his name, Gary
yes.
Vaynerchuk or something like that, but I can follow what you do,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
example. I can follow what my business coach does because and so that I think is really,
yeah,
it's having the network and the role models who inspire you and support you without
yeah,
making you feel like you're never going to get where you should.
yeah. Oh, brilliant. No, what a great answer, because my next question was going to be, what have you got out of being in the Sober Business Network? And you've kind of just answered that, but is there anything else?
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel really, I go into the WhatsApp group sometimes, and I mean
Yes.
there's a lot of conversation there. There's sometimes because I'm not always in there, I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna catch up with this.
Oh,
But when
just
I
scroll
do,
through. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
But when I do, it's just like there is so many incredible people in that community doing
yeah.
incredible things, and everyone is so supportive
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's just like yeah, it's such a great space to be because it when you're doing something like this, particularly talking about sobriety and recovery, you can feel like a bit of the mad woman in the corner if you're not in that community where there's, because everyone else is like, oh, party, and I'm there going, well, maybe you don't need to
Yeah.
drink tonight. um, yeah, so it's
I
really
know.
nice to have that community where everyone is talking about the same thing and with the same enthusiasm as well. It's
Yeah.
like we're all in there
Yeah.
because we love this whole sober life, and
Yes.
it's just, yeah, it's that shared
Yeah.
purpose as well.
Yeah. No, that's really nice to hear. Thank you. And the reason why I set the network up in the first place is because I wanted to network on a business level with other entrepreneurs who you've already got over that hurdle of the drinking thing, because I've spent so much time at networking events with people who are drinking, and they're literally drinking while I'm talking to them. And then
Mm.
when they find out what my business is, they start apologizing for their drinking, which they don't need to do, and then telling me that they don't have a drinking problem, which I never thought they did have. And it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it's really constructive, or that they ever,
Mm.
like, they just seem to find it quite confronting. And I
Yeah.
don't know, I just didn't feel like it was helping me that much. And since
Mm.
I've been networking with sober people in the sober community, it's been magical, and I've made so much more progress. So I'm hoping that you
Yeah.
feel a bit of that as well.
It is really interesting, isn't it? Networking in
Yeah.
non-sober spaces. It does feel
Mm.
like, yeah, you've had to think, what do what I do? Shall I pretend I do something else right now? Like, I'm not really feeling that this group wants to hear about this.
Yeah, it is. I know. But do you know what, though? Having said that, I've been going on some I've been part of, like, my local council's startup scheme. So they provide quite a lot of coaching and training for entrepreneurs who are in the first 2 years of business. So that's coming to a close for me now, but it's been really, really interesting, and I've met loads of people. And every time at the beginning, you introduce yourself and what your business is, and every single time, my business has ended up being like this huge talking point for about 10 minutes, because people do find it interesting, and everyone knows someone and they're like, oh, you need to talk to my cousin because he's an alcoholic. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I think really what it is that he needs to come to me, not me to him. But anyway,
Mm,
you know, but there's always a story. People are always,
yeah.
or they'll say, oh, my husband's sober, and it really annoys him that he's always having to go on these boozy work dues and things like that. So yeah,
Mm,
it is interesting.
yeah. Yeah, and
There's
there's
there are,
increasing
yeah,
awareness around both the problems of alcohol and, of course, the rise of sobriety, the sober cook, sober curious. people
Yeah.
wanting more, people who just, the designated drivers who just want to have something to drink other than
Mm,
Coke when they go out. There's a much
hmm
bigger awareness around the need for non-alcoholic options to be available and for the
mm,
health benefits of not drinking. That
yeah.
it is definitely becoming
Yeah.
easier to talk about than it was for when I
Yes.
stopped drinking 9 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, 9 years ago. Wow. Yeah, definitely. Um, and so what advice would you have for someone then who wants to set up as a sober coach? So how would you go about it if you
Well, I would.
taking into account
So I would
everything you've
definitely.
learned?
So, so I mean, definitely get some coaching, some training. There's the
Yeah.
Recovery Coach Academy does recovery coaching. Obviously, Janie Lee Grace does her sober coaching, and they're very different. I've not done Janie's course,
Yeah.
but there's very different focus on that. So it would depend.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it, make sure that you know what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
Because recovery and sobriety have got very different feel to them and very different
Yes.
need behind them a lot of the time. So I would definitely get that training so that you know what you understand the issues that you're dealing with. If you are, if you are in recovery yourself, I would definitely as well make sure that you got your own, not that you have to have been in recovery or you have to have been sober for a long time, but you certainly need to be able to manage your own stuff. That you need to
Yes.
have your own coping strategies. You need to be able to, because you're going to come up against other people's stuff, and that can be quite draining. I would
Yeah.
also recommend getting some trauma training because I don't
Okay.
believe that you find addiction without trauma. And even though
Mm,
you wouldn't necessarily be dealing with that trauma, it's good to be aware of it and have an understanding of what
yeah.
trauma can look like in people so that you can say, look, okay, I think you need to go and talk to somebody about this. It's not me, but you go,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think you need some
Yeah.
further help with this. And then yeah, when once you've got your training, then it's just getting out there and finding the spaces where people are. It depends on what you're looking to niche in. So if you're looking for people who are dealing
Yeah.
with addiction, then it's different than if you're looking for the people who want health related sobriety. So for example,
Yeah.
I'm in a couple of fitness groups because I'm very into
Yes.
fitness and running and walking and working out. And there's always people in these groups talking about, oh, should I give up drinking? Or I'm thinking about giving up drinking, or
Yeah.
I'm doing dry January this year. So if you're looking for the health related things, then you can find your clients in those sorts of spaces. If you're looking
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
people dealing with addiction issues, then you're going to be looking in different spaces, but you might also find that they cross, because I was in those spaces
Yeah.
when I was dealing with
Yeah.
addiction as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then it
Yeah.
just comes down to then it's marketing and getting your messaging and, figuring out
Yeah.
who it is you want to, um, who you want to help and what your messaging is going to be about. Like mine is, as you can probably tell by my t-shirt,
Yeah.
Sobriety Rocks. My kind of online presence is very much about being sober is so much more fun than you think it's going to be. I'm
Yeah.
always at gigs. I'm out. I'm a
Yeah.
real rock chick, and I want people to know that they can have a lot of fun without
Yeah.
alcohol. That actually the alcohol was probably getting in the way of the fun, and they can have a lot more fun
Yeah.
without it. So that is part of my it's part of my personality. It's part of me, but it's also part of
Yeah.
the image that I've chosen to put out into the
Mm.
world. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, love
Yeah.
my
And
t-shirt.
your copywriting will really help you with that, won't it?
Well,
Like
yeah. I
potentially,
mean,
would you advise people to get a copywriter if it's not their strength?
oh,
Potentially.
definitely. I mean, yes. I mean, that is something that I can help with as well because I can,
Yeah.
I can do that. I still have my copywriting skills and still have some packages actually.
Yeah.
But I mean, copywriting is absolutely fundamental because you've got to make sure that you're speaking their language. You want to sound like you in your copy so that, when
Yeah.
there's no point me writing in a way that makes me sound very formal and very straight-laced when I'm so far from that. My writing conveys who I am, but it also is written. You've got to make sure that you're writing in a way that your reader is going to relate to, and that it's going to.
Yeah.
You want to get that, if you ever had an email or you read a social media post and it's like, they're writing this to me. You
Yeah.
wanna
Yeah.
you wanna get to know your clients well enough that they
Mm,
read those emails and think, oh my God, it's like she's in
yeah.
my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and that there's techniques to be able to do that, and you can learn how to do that. But also, if you're
Yeah.
busy trying to build up your business and do your coaching, it takes a lot of
Yeah.
time. So yeah,
Exactly.
get a
Yeah.
copywriter
No.
if you need to.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's good advice. I love it. Thank you for sharing that, Esther. Um, so I've only got a couple more questions. What Well, I'm going to ask. No, I'm going to save that one for the last. um, what one thing is the single biggest learning that you've had about setting up a business?
The hard work.
Right.
That's been the,
Yeah.
the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Is
It is
it's
harder than it looks, isn't it?
it's harder than it looks.
Yeah.
There are times when I question if it's right for me.
Yeah.
And then I remember how much I always hated being employed.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure I'm probably, as close to unemployable as I'm gonna get. But also in a j- you know in being in this being self-employed means that I get to control my narrative. I get to control how I work with people. So for somebody that actually I might not be very good at maintaining my routines, but actually I don't like being told what to do.
Mm,
So for me, it suits me to be able to say, right, okay, I want to do it this way and I'm going to do it this way. And if it doesn't work,
yeah.
well, that's fine, but I'm
It's
going
on
to do
you.
it this
Yeah.
way. And it means that I get to help the people that I want to help, and I get to help them in the way that I want to help them. I don't have to follow somebody else's process. I don't have to follow other people's policy. I get to
Yeah.
decide how this works. And there's a freedom in that I just, yeah, it
Mm,
suits me so
yeah.
much. But it is harder than even after I've been doing it for years, I'm still surprised by how hard it is.
Yeah.
it,
It
but
is.
but
It's
but
tough, isn't it?
but then,
Mm,
as I said before about your network, but it's finding the right people
yeah.
makes it so that, yes, it's still hard work, but as when you're supported and you've got people around you who have got your back, who I know I could come into our Sober Business Network WhatsApp group and say I'm really struggling with this, and I'd have quite a lot of people offering me help or advice,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
that there is that so it is hard, but finding the right support network and the right networks to be part of and the right coaches and the right people to work with, I think that's the key, is finding the right people to work with, whether that's in your team directly or just in your wider sort of support community is crucial. And it can be just so joyful then, because I'd never
Yeah.
have
It
met you
is,
if
isn't
I
it?
wasn't,
Yeah.
in this mad thing called
Yes.
entrepreneurship.
I know, isn't it? I've met so many. Honestly, the best thing about setting this network up is, without a doubt, I've just met so many wonderful people in three
Yeah,
months. It's just been the most fun.
yeah.
It really has. It's been
You
brilliant, and
have
I'm so glad to
curated
have
a
you in the
fantastic
network.
community. Yeah,
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's
yeah.
exciting. So my final question for everybody who records one of these sessions is: what is your favourite thing about being sober?
Oh, well, I mean, my normal
It's
quite glibly
difficult to get
do.
it down to one.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean,
Mm,
until my mum got ill, I would have just said, "Well, I'm alive. Yeah, I'm alive," and
yeah,
that's huge, because I don't think I would have got through, even if I'd got as far as 2020. I'm pretty sure the lockdown and the anxiety and the whole chaos of that would have finished me off.
yeah,
Um, but then my mum got ill, and when she was ill, I it's true to say I didn't handle it very well. I really struggled with her being ill and knowing that she was going to die, and I've struggled with her death, and I'm mentally not always in a great
Yeah.
place. But I didn't make it all about me, and I didn't give her reasons to worry about me, other than she knew that I was, she was worried about me because she knew that I'm very emotional and that I was going to struggle with her death. But she didn't have to watch me kind of going into free fall,
Yeah.
the way that I would
Yeah.
have had I been drinking. If I'd been drinking
Mm.
at the time that she told me that she was ill, I might have even beaten her to the grave. I don't know. We lost my brother when my brother died when he was 30, and that was
Oh
really,
gosh.
I mean, I don't think my mum ever recovered from it.
No.
And I've
Oh
always
gosh,
been
that's awful. I'm
incredibly
so
glad that I
sorry.
didn't put her through losing another child.
Yeah.
And I'm just so glad that I was
Yeah.
sober when she was ill, because I think if I was going to do it, it would have
Yeah.
been then. I don't think I would have
Yeah.
coped with it if
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
drinking. So, yeah, I'm glad that
Yeah.
my mum's last
Yeah.
year was, I didn't make my
Yeah.
mum's last year harder than it was.
Oh, bless you. Oh, bless
So I
you.
can talk about
That's a
lots of fun
really
things as well, but
unusual.
really, that's,
Yeah, that
that's
is a really
all.
unusual and really profound answer. And thank you so much for sharing that, Esther. And I'm so sorry that you've had so much loss. I really am. Yeah. Oh,
That's
bless
okay.
you.
I didn't,
I want to
I
reach
didn't
in
know I
and
was
give
going
you
to
a
say
hug.
that.
Yeah. I know it's interesting, isn't it? What comes up? Yeah.
Mm,
Oh, bless you. Are you
I would have.
okay?
Yeah, yeah, I'm okay. So my answer is
Yeah.
normally about going to gigs and dancing or just being alive.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
those things are
no,
great
it's
as
good.
well.
It's good, yeah.
Those things are great as well. Yeah. There are so many gifts that sobriety brings to us in all sorts of different forms. But yeah, that's a really special one. Really, really special one. Oh, thank you, Esther. Oh, so we will leave it there. Oh, and I really want to reach into the screen and give you a hug, Esther. I really do. But I wanted to say a massive thank you as well for being such an active member of the Sober Business Network. I love reading your articles, and I love the fact that you publish on our directory so regularly as well. It really helps me to reach more people when people in the network do that. And it's a pleasure to read your
I'll,
articles always.
I'll
So
be
thank you
doing
for
it
that.
more because I'm bringing out my inner writer. My writer, Esther the
Yeah,
writer, is definitely coming out to play a lot more in 2024, because
yeah,
I might be a
which is
recovery coach,
brilliant.
but I'm a writer at my heart as well. So yeah, I'll be
Yes,
doing
you
it more.
are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got plenty to say to the world. So yeah. So if we can help you
Yeah,
increase your readership in any way, then let us know how we can help. And I love sharing your articles. So
will do.
and if
Thank
anyone
you.
listening does want to find out more about you and how they can reach you, what's the best place?
So my website is redshoesrecovery.com. And you can get me there. You can find out about my coaching. You can read my blogs, and you can contact me through there. I'm currently contemplating doing a dry January on social media. I saw somebody posting this morning that they're going to do a January off social media, and I'm really thinking that might be a wonderful idea. So I might not be on social
That's a good
media,
idea.
but I'm
Yeah,
there as well on Red
yeah,
Shoes
yeah.
Recovery as well.
That's a
But I
good
might be
idea, actually. I
absent for
quite
a
like
while.
that. Just take a break. Yeah, take a break.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good
Yes.
because it's enough to drive you crazy, isn't it? Sometimes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And the last
Oh,
time I took
uh,
a month off from social media, I ended up writing a book. So,
wow, wow, wow.
yeah, that was a bit
That's
unexpected
incredible.
as
What's
well.
have you published it?
Yeah, yeah. I wrote it
What's
and
it called?
published
Tell
it
us
in
about the
about
book.
6 weeks. It's called Bent Back
Wow,
into Shape: Beating Addiction Through Yoga. It's
brilliant.
I can't read it now because when I read it now, all I see is the undiagnosed ADHD. I thought I
Oh,
knew
okay.
myself really well when I wrote it, and now I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to rewrite the whole thing.
Mm.
But yeah,
Well,
I took
good
a
on you
month
for
off
getting it
social
out there.
media and ended up writing a
Yeah.
book.
Wow. That is an
So
inspiration for getting off social media for a few weeks, isn't it?
you have
Brilliant.
to have
Oh,
undiagnosed ADHD as well, I think.
perhaps, yeah. So, if anyone listening does want to join us in the Sober Business Network, you can find us at soberbusinessnetwork.co.uk, and we'd be very happy to have you in our warm and friendly welcoming group. So if you hit the join today button, you'll see the 3 different levels of membership. Come and join us. Thanks very much for listening.
Bye.